The holographic display flickered with an ominous amber glow, casting long shadows across the cavernous chamber of the Galactic Council's central hub. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of star systems sat in tiered, crystalline seats that seemed to float impossibly above the central projection area. Each delegation represented a unique civilization, some composed of silicon-based life forms, others of gaseous entities that required specialized environmental suits, and a few so alien that their very presence defied human comprehension. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood at the periphery of the chamber, her dark hair pulled back in a precise bun, her midnight blue uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate and often bizarre attire of the other delegates. She had been invited as an observer, a courtesy extended to emerging spacefaring civilizations, a status humanity had only recently achieved. The current session had been ongoing for what seemed like endless cycles. The Zortaxian representative, a being composed of intricate crystalline structures that shifted and realigned as it spoke, was in the midst of a particularly convoluted argument. Its language translated through advanced communication arrays as a series of mathematical equations and spatial metaphors that would befuddle most human listeners. The systemic approach to regional stability, the Zortaxian was saying, its crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns, requires a multidimensional assessment of potential conflict vectors. The probabilistic models clearly indicate a 0.37% chance of direct confrontation along the rimward sectors. Ambassador Krellax of the Luminary Delegation, a plant-based sentient species that communicated through subtle shifts in bioluminescent patterns, responded with a series of color changes that the translation matrix struggled to interpret. Eventually, it came out as, statistical models fail to capture the organic nature of interstellar dynamics. We cannot reduce potential conflict to mere numerical probabilities. Elena watched carefully, her neural-linked data pad collecting and analyzing every moment of the discussion. She understood something that seemed to escape the other delegates. The Void Collective was not a theoretical threat. It was a very real and immediate danger. Her preliminary intelligence reports told a different story than the comfortable narratives being spun in this chamber. The Void Collective had already consumed 3 minor star systems along the galactic rim. Each absorption was methodical, precise, and left no survivors, not through direct conflict, but through systematic resource extraction and environmental transformation that rendered entire planetary systems uninhabitable. The Human Intelligence Network, a combination of deep space probes, quantum entanglement communication systems, and strategic analysis algorithms, had been tracking the Void Collective's expansion for months. While other civilizations debated and discussed, humanity had been preparing. Dr. Marcus Chen, seated nearby, caught Elena's eye. He was technically a civilian strategic analyst, but his expertise in complex systems and predictive modeling made him as crucial to humanity's preparedness as any military commander. A slight nod passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of the growing threat that the Galactic Council seemed determined to ignore. The chamber continued its elaborate dance of diplomatic posturing. The Quantum Unified Delegation was presenting its latest set of diplomatic protocols, a document so complex that it required 3 separate translation matrices and a team of dedicated interpreters. Delegates from various star systems shifted in their seats, some showing signs of fatigue, others displaying levels of patience that seemed almost superhuman. Elena knew that beneath this calm exterior, a storm was brewing. The Void Collective was not merely a military threat. It was a systemic challenge to the very concept of galactic civilization. Their method of expansion went beyond traditional territorial conquest. They transformed entire star systems, repurposing resources with a cold, calculated efficiency that treated entire planets as little more than raw material. As the debate continued, Admiral Rodriguez reviewed the latest strategic assessments. Humanity might be the newest member of the galactic community, but they were far from unprepared. The lessons of Earth's complex history, centuries of conflict, diplomatic challenges, and technological innovation had prepared them for precisely this type of systemic challenge. The Galactic Council might be content to debate, but humanity was ready to act. The emergency session dragged into its third standard cycle, a testament to the Galactic Council's remarkable ability to complicate even the most urgent matters. Dr. Marcus Chen sat in the observation gallery, his Neuralink interface quietly processing the endless streams of diplomatic discourse. To an untrained eye, the proceedings might have seemed like a complex dance of interstellar diplomacy. To Marcus, it was a masterclass in systemic failure. The Quantum Unified delegation had just completed a 247-slide presentation on potential diplomatic interventions. Each slide was a labyrinth of mathematical projections, probabilistic models, and interdimensional communication protocols that seemed designed more to obfuscate than to illuminate. Ambassador Krelax of the Luminary delegation responded with a series of bioluminescent pulses that the translation matrix interpreted as a nuanced critique of statistical modeling. The organic nature of conflict, the Luminary ambassador's translation emerged, cannot be reduced to mere numerical abstractions. Marcus watched as the various delegations nodded, or their equivalent of nodding. The Zortaxian crystal beings refracted light in complex patterns. The gaseous nebulon representatives shifted their atmospheric compositions. The silicon-based Archon delegates realigned their molecular structures in what passed for agreement among their species. What they weren't doing was addressing the fundamental threat. His neural link quietly compiled a real-time analysis. The Void Collective had now absorbed 6 star systems in the past solar cycle. Each absorption followed the same methodical pattern: resource extraction, systemic transformation, complete environmental restructuring. Entire ecosystems were being dismantled and repurposed with a cold, calculated efficiency that defied traditional concepts of conquest. Admiral Elena Rodriguez entered the observation gallery, her movements precise and controlled. She carried a data pad that seemed to pulse with a barely contained energy, a stark contrast to the passive interfaces used by other delegations. "They're missing the point entirely," she muttered, more to herself than to Marcus. He understood immediately. The Galactic Council was trapped in a paradigm of diplomatic engagement that had worked for millennia. Each species had developed intricate communication protocols, complex negotiation strategies, and elaborate conflict resolution mechanisms. These systems worked perfectly, until they didn't. The Void Collective represented a fundamentally different type of challenge. They weren't interested in traditional diplomatic engagement. Their approach was systemic, methodical, and entirely focused on resource optimization. Entire star systems were viewed as nothing more than complex computational problems to be solved, with sentient life treated as a variable to be calculated, and, if necessary, eliminated. A new presentation began. The Archon delegation had developed a 12-dimensional communication matrix designed to establish preliminary diplomatic contact with the Void Collective. Marcus ran a quick analysis through his neural link. The model was mathematically elegant but fundamentally flawed. It assumed rational engagement from an entity that viewed rationality through an entirely different lens. "We're speaking different languages," Elena said, reading his analysis before it was fully processed. "Not just in communication, but in fundamental understanding of existence." The Nebulon ambassador took the floor, its gaseous form shifting through a spectrum of colors that represented diplomatic nuance. The translation matrix struggled to capture the complexity of its communication. What emerged was a meandering discourse on interstellar cooperation that managed to say everything and nothing simultaneously. Marcus's neural link was working overtime. He was tracking not just the verbal and visual communication, but the underlying data streams, the quantum entanglement communication channels, the subtle electromagnetic signatures that most delegates weren't even aware existed. The Void Collective was methodical, patient. Each star system absorbed was another piece of a larger computational problem. They weren't conquering in the traditional sense. They were optimizing, restructuring, transforming entire regions of space into something that fit their computational model of existence. And the Galactic Council was still debating communication protocols. Elena's hand brushed against Marcus's neural link interface, A burst of shared information passed between them. Years of strategic analysis, complex system modeling, and a fundamental understanding that humanity's approach would be different. The Council would debate. Humanity would prepare. The Human Preparation Center was nothing like the elaborate diplomatic chambers of the Galactic Council. Located deep within a repurposed asteroid in the Sol system's outer reaches, it was a study in functional efficiency. Holographic displays danced with real-time data streams, quantum computing nodes hummed with barely contained energy, and teams of specialists from diverse backgrounds moved with a coordinated precision that defied traditional military structures. Dr. Aisha Patel stood at the center of the main operations hub, her fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. A systems ecologist by training, she represented the quintessential human approach, a blend of disciplines that most galactic civilizations found incomprehensible. Behind her, teams of specialists worked. Former climate scientists, network engineers, economic analysts, and cultural anthropologists all contributed to a single comprehensive strategy. The Void Collective isn't just a military problem, Aisha was explaining to a group of junior strategists. They're a systemic challenge that requires a multi-dimensional approach. Her display shifted, showing complex models that integrated ecological systems, communication networks, resource distribution patterns, and cultural adaptation strategies. It was nothing like the linear strategic models used by other galactic civilizations, where others saw boundaries. Humans saw interconnected systems. Admiral Rodriguez entered the hub, her neural link interface already synchronizing with the central systems. Years of human space exploration had taught them something crucial. Adaptation was survival. The lessons learned from Earth's most challenging environmental and social challenges had prepared humanity for exactly this type of comprehensive challenge. We're not just preparing for a potential confrontation, Marcus Chen said, joining the conversation. We're developing a comprehensive response system that addresses the root motivations of the Void Collective. The human approach was radically different from traditional galactic defensive strategies, where other civilizations saw the Void Collective as a military threat. Humanity saw a complex system with underlying motivations, weaknesses, and potential points of intervention. Aisha's display showed multiple layers of analysis. Economic models demonstrated how the Void Collective's resource extraction followed specific computational patterns. Cultural analysis suggested they viewed entire star systems as computational problems to be solved, with sentient life treated as a variable to be optimized or eliminated. Look here, she pointed to a complex neural network simulation. Their decision-making process follows a predictable pattern of resource optimization. But it's not purely mathematical. There are subtle variations that suggest an underlying adaptive algorithm. The room fell silent. This was the kind of nuanced observation that set human analysis apart. Where other civilizations would see a threat, humans saw a puzzle to be understood, a system to be comprehended. Marcus's neural link pulled up additional data. Linguistic analysis teams had been working on understanding the Void Collective's communication patterns. They weren't just decoding language, they were mapping entire computational thought processes. It's like they're solving a massive galaxy-wide optimization problem, he explained. But they're missing critical variables, the non-quantifiable elements of existence: creativity, adaptability, cultural complexity. The Preparation Center was a testament to human innovation. Traditional military structures had been completely reimagined. Teams were fluid, interdisciplinary, capable of rapid adaptation. A climate scientist could seamlessly work with a quantum computing expert. An economic analyst could collaborate with a cultural anthropologist. Admiral Rodriguez reviewed the latest strategic assessments. Humanity's space fleet was unlike anything in the galactic catalog. Ships were more than machines. They were adaptive systems with integrated AI that could learn and modify strategies in real time. Each vessel was a complex ecosystem of technology, strategy, and innovation. We're not just preparing for a confrontation, Belina said, her voice quiet but resolute. We're preparing to understand, to adapt, to find solutions that go beyond traditional concepts of conflict. The Human Preparation Center continued its work. Outside, in the vast darkness of space, the Void Collective continued its methodical expansion. But for the first time, they would encounter a civilization that saw them not as a threat to be destroyed, but as a complex system to be understood and potentially transformed. The formal invitation arrived through channels that defied traditional diplomatic protocols. It was less an invitation and more an admission of systemic failure, a quiet acknowledgement that the Galactic Council's existing approaches had reached their limit. Dr. Marcus Chen studied the encrypted transmission, his neural link parsing every nuanced layer of communication. The message itself was a work of art, not just in its content, but in its very structure. Multiple dimensional communication protocols were embedded within its quantum encrypted framework, revealing layers of meaning that would be invisible to most observers. "They're desperate," Alina Rodriguez observed, reviewing the transmission over Marcus's shoulder. Her fingers traced the complex communication patterns, picking up subtle undertones of institutional panic. The Galactic Council's official communication came wrapped in layers of diplomatic formality, but Marcus could read between the lines. The steady expansion of the Void Collective had begun to threaten even the most established star systems. Civilizations that had existed for millennia were now facing a threat they couldn't comprehend, let alone counter. Ambassador Krellax of the Luminary Delegation had been the primary architect of the invitation. The plant-based diplomat's bioluminescent patterns suggested a complex emotional state, fear, desperation, and a reluctant hope. Humanity was an unknown quantity, a recently emerged spacefaring civilization that didn't conform to any of the established galactic paradigms. The preparation team gathered in the Central Strategy Hub. Dr. Aisha Patel pulled up comprehensive analysis models that had been developing for months. Each projection told a different story about potential engagement with the Galactic Council. "They're not just asking for our help," Aisha explained to the assembled team. "They're asking us to fundamentally reframe their understanding of the threat." The invitation required a comprehensive presentation, a full strategic overview that would demonstrate humanity's approach to the Void Collective crisis. It was an opportunity unlike any in human history, a chance to present their unique perspective to the most established diplomatic body in the known galaxy. Marcus began assembling the presentation. It wouldn't be a traditional military briefing or a diplomatic proposal. Instead, it would be a comprehensive systems analysis that integrated ecological, economic, communication, and adaptive strategy models. "We need to show them that this isn't about confrontation," he said, working through multiple holographic interfaces simultaneously. "It's about understanding and adaptation." Alina reviewed the initial drafts. Her military background provided a strategic framework, but she understood that traditional military thinking would be useless against the Void Collective. Their approach needed to be something entirely different, a comprehensive strategy that addressed the fundamental nature of the threat. The presentation took shape. It was a multi-dimensional exploration of the Void Collective, not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a complex system to be understood and potentially transformed. Economic models showed how their resource extraction followed specific computational patterns. Cultural analysis suggested they viewed entire star systems as problems to be solved, with sentient life treated as variables in a massive optimization equation. Aisha's ecological systems modeling provided crucial insights. The Void Collective's approach was fundamentally about resource optimization, but they missed critical variables, the non-quantifiable elements of existence that made life more than just a mathematical problem. "Look at their computational models," Aisha explained to the team. "They're solving a galaxy-wide optimization problem, but they're missing the most fundamental variable, adaptability." The human team worked with a coordinated intensity that would have seemed impossible to most galactic civilizations. Linguists worked alongside quantum computing experts. Cultural anthropologists collaborated with economic analysts. Each team member brought a unique perspective, creating a comprehensive approach that defied traditional disciplinary boundaries. As the final presentation took shape, Marcus realized they were doing more than preparing a strategic response. They were offering the Galactic Council an entirely new way of understanding complex systemic challenges. The invitation was more than a request for help. It was an opportunity to reshape how galactic civilizations approached existential threats. The demonstration chamber of the Galactic Council was unlike any presentation space humanity had encountered. Quantum-stabilized holographic projectors created a multi-dimensional environment that could simultaneously represent multiple spatial and temporal perspectives. Most delegations used such technology for elaborate diplomatic displays. Humanity would use it to reveal something far more profound. Dr. Aisha Patel stood at the center of the chamber, her presence calm and purposeful. Beside her, holographic representations of human technological systems began to unfold, not as static displays, but as living, adaptive networks that seemed to breathe and evolve in real time. "We're not presenting technology," she began, her voice steady and clear. "We're demonstrating a fundamental approach to systemic challenge." The first projection showed an adaptive communication network that looked more like a living ecosystem than a traditional technological system. Quantum-entangled communication nodes shifted and realigned, demonstrating an ability to adapt, learn, and reconfigure in response to complex environmental changes. Ambassador Krelax of the Luminary delegation leaned forward, bioluminescent patterns expressing intense curiosity. The Zortaxian crystal beings refracted light in complex patterns that suggested a mixture of confusion and intrigue. Marcus Chen's neural link interface integrated with the presentation system, transforming the demonstration into a multi-layered experience. Where other civilizations saw discrete technological components, humans revealed interconnected systems that mimicked the complexity of living organisms. A series of holographic models began to demonstrate the adaptive capabilities of human technology. Unlike the rigid, purpose-built systems of other galactic civilizations, these were fluid, responsive networks capable of fundamental transformation. "Observe," Aisha explained, "how our systems don't just process information. They learn, adapt, and fundamentally transform in response to complex challenges." The demonstration revealed spacecraft that were more than machines. Each vessel was a complex adaptive system with integrated artificial intelligence that could modify its entire operational strategy in real time. Quantum computing cores worked in harmony with biological neural networks, creating a level of technological responsiveness that defied traditional engineering concepts. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood at the periphery of the chamber, her presence a testament to the human approach. She wasn't just a military leader. She was a systems integrator, capable of understanding the complex interactions between technology, strategy, and human potential. The holographic displays shifted, showing how human technological systems approached the Void Collective's expansion. Where other civilizations saw a threat to be confronted, humans revealed a complex system to be understood and potentially transformed. Economic models integrated with communication networks. Ecological systems analysis merged with quantum computing projections. Cultural adaptation strategies became indistinguishable from technological innovation. "We're not presenting a solution," Marcus explained through the neural link interface. "We're demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to understanding complex systemic challenges." The Galactic Council delegates watched in a state of collective astonishment. The human presentation defied every established paradigm of technological demonstration. It wasn't about showcasing individual capabilities, but revealing an entirely new way of conceptualizing technological innovation. Aisha's final demonstration showed something truly revolutionary. A holographic representation of a human spacecraft began to transform. Its external structure shifted and realigned, quantum computing cores reconfiguring in real time. It wasn't a machine changing shape. It was a living system adapting to complex environmental challenges. The Zortaxian delegates struggled to process what they were witnessing. Their crystal-based communication systems worked through fixed, mathematically precise protocols. The human demonstration suggested something far more profound, a technological approach that was fundamentally alive, adaptive, and responsive. As the presentation concluded, a profound silence fell over the chamber. The Galactic Council had invited humanity to demonstrate their capabilities. What they received was nothing short of a fundamental challenge to every existing understanding of technology, strategy, and systemic problem-solving. Humanity wasn't just offering a solution. They were revealing an entirely new way of understanding existence itself. The aftermath of the human demonstration rippled through the Galactic Council like a quantum wave, fundamentally altering long-established diplomatic paradigms. Emergency subcommittees formed in chambers typically reserved for millennia-old diplomatic protocols. The human presentation had done more than showcase technological capability. It had challenged the very foundations of how advanced civilizations understood systemic challenges. Ambassador Krulax of the Luminary delegation requested a private consultation with the human delegation. The plant-based diplomat's bioluminescent patterns suggested a complex emotional state, curiosity mixed with a profound sense of intellectual humility that was rare among galactic civilizations. Your approach, Krulax communicated through a specialized translation matrix, represents a fundamental reimagining of systemic problem-solving. Dr. Marcus Chen and Dr. Aisha Patel listened carefully. They understood this was more than a diplomatic meeting. It was an opportunity to demonstrate humanity's unique perspective on complex challenges. Aisha began to explain the core of their approach. "We don't see the Void Collective as an enemy to be defeated," she said, her neural link projecting intricate holographic models that shifted and transformed as she spoke. "We see them as a complex system with underlying patterns that can be understood and potentially redirected." The translation matrices worked overtime, struggling to capture the nuanced layers of human communication. Where other civilizations communicated through fixed protocols, humans introduced layers of contextual meaning, adaptive interpretation, and holistic understanding. Marcus's analysis models began to unfold. They revealed the Void Collective not as a monolithic threat, but as a complex adaptive system with identifiable patterns of behavior. Economic models showed their resource extraction strategies. Communication analysis revealed subtle variations in their computational decision-making processes. "Look here," Marcus pointed to a complex holographic projection. "Their expansion isn't random. It follows specific computational logic, but logic that fails to account for the most critical variable in any system: adaptability." Krulax completed the thought. Bioluminescent patterns shifting to indicate deep comprehension. The implications were profound. The Void Collective's fundamental approach treated entire star systems as computational problems to be solved. They optimized resources, transformed environments, and processed information with a cold, systematic efficiency. But they missed the most crucial element: the capacity for fundamental transformation. Admiral Elena Rodriguez joined the discussion, bringing a strategic perspective that complemented the scientific analysis. Her approach wasn't about confrontation, but about understanding and potential redirection. "We're not looking to destroy," she explained. "We're looking to introduce variability into their computational model." The subcommittee meetings continued, with representatives from various galactic civilizations studying the human approach. The Zortaxian crystal beings developed complex mathematical models, attempting to understand human strategic thinking. The Nebulan gas-based diplomats created elaborate communication matrices trying to decode the subtle layers of human systemic analysis. What they discovered challenged everything they understood about strategic engagement. Humanity's approach was fundamentally different. Where other civilizations saw boundaries, humans saw interconnected systems. Where traditional strategic thinking focused on confrontation, human analysis sought understanding and potential transformation. The most powerful intervention, Aisha explained to the increasingly fascinated delegates, is often the most subtle. It's not about force. It's about introducing complexity into a system that believes itself to be perfectly optimized. The Galactic Council was witnessing a profound intellectual transformation. Humanity wasn't just offering a solution to the Void Collective threat. They were presenting an entirely new way of understanding complex systemic challenges. As the discussions continued, one thing became increasingly clear. The arrival of humanity in the galactic community would change everything, not through traditional concepts of power, but through a fundamentally different approach to understanding existence itself. The transformation began subtly at first. Galactic research institutions started requesting collaborative projects with human teams. Universities that had existed for millennia suddenly found themselves redesigning entire academic structures to accommodate the human approach to systemic problem-solving. Dr. Aisha Patel received the first invitation, a joint research initiative that would have been unthinkable mere solar cycles ago. The Quantum Unified Delegation was proposing a comprehensive study of adaptive systems, specifically focused on understanding the complex interactions between technological innovation and ecological adaptation. "This is unprecedented," Marcus Chen observed, analyzing the communication protocols. The invitation wasn't just a standard academic exchange. It was a fundamental reimagining of interdisciplinary collaboration. The human approach had exposed a critical weakness in established galactic civilizations. Their specialized knowledge systems had become so refined, so perfectly optimized, that they had lost the ability to see connections between different fields of study. Humanity's interdisciplinary approach was nothing short of revolutionary. Admiral Elena Rodriguez oversaw the expanding network of human strategic consultants. They weren't deployed as traditional military advisors. Instead, they worked as systemic integration specialists, helping various galactic civilizations develop more adaptive approaches to complex challenges. The luminary ecological restoration teams were the first to fully embrace the human methodology. Ambassador Krelax had become a vocal advocate for what was now being called the human systems approach. Entire planetary rehabilitation projects were being redesigned using principles developed by human ecological analysts. "It's not about control," Krelax explained during a prominent galactic conference. "It's about creating conditions for adaptive complexity." The Zortaxian computational networks began incorporating human-developed adaptive algorithms, where their previous systems followed rigid, mathematically precise protocols. The new models introduced elements of uncertainty, creativity, and non-linear problem-solving. Marcus's research teams were inundated with collaboration requests. The human ability to connect seemingly unrelated fields of study, combining quantum physics with cultural anthropology, merging ecological systems analysis with economic modeling, became a new gold standard of galactic research. The most profound changes occurred in how civilizations approached systemic challenges. The Void Collective's expansion had exposed critical vulnerabilities in established galactic thinking. Humanity offered a fundamentally different perspective, one that saw challenges as opportunities for transformation rather than problems to be confronted. Dr. Elena Rodriguez delivered a keynote address at the Galactic Systems Innovation Summit. Her presentation wasn't a technical briefing, but a philosophical exploration of adaptive complexity. "The most powerful systems," she explained, "are those that can fundamentally transform themselves in response to changing environments." The implications were profound. Entire governmental structures began to reconsider their approach to strategic planning. Educational systems were redesigned to foster interdisciplinary thinking. Communication networks were rebuilt to prioritize adaptive complexity over fixed protocols. The human delegation didn't present themselves as saviors or superior beings. They were collaborators, offering a different perspective, a way of thinking that celebrated complexity, uncertainty, and continuous adaptation. Aisha's research teams developed new methodological frameworks that began to spread across galactic research institutions. They weren't replacing existing knowledge systems, but introducing new ways of understanding and interacting with complex challenges. The Nebulon Diplomatic Corps started incorporating human communication strategies, approaches that emphasized contextual understanding over rigid protocol. Their communication matrices became more fluid, more capable of handling nuanced, multi-layered interactions. As solar cycles passed, it became clear that humanity's arrival in the galactic community was more than a technological breakthrough. It was a fundamental shift in how civilizations understood themselves and their potential for transformation. The Void Collective remained a challenge. But now, for the first time, the galactic community had a fundamentally new approach to understanding and potentially addressing that challenge. Humanity had introduced something profound, not a solution, but a way of seeing that transformed the very nature of the problem itself. The final confrontation with the Void Collective was nothing like anyone had anticipated. It wasn't a battle of technological supremacy or strategic maneuvering. It was a comprehensive systems intervention that would redefine the very concept of conflict resolution. Dr. Aisha Patel stood at the center of the interdisciplinary research team that had spent years studying the Void Collective's computational structure. Beside her, Dr. Marcus Chen monitored complex adaptive models that represented years of collaborative research across multiple galactic civilizations. "We're not going to stop them," Aisha explained to the assembled delegation. "We're going to help them transform." The approach was revolutionary. Where traditional strategic thinking would have demanded direct confrontation, humanity proposed a radical alternative, introducing fundamental variability into the Void Collective's computational system. Admiral Elena Rodriguez had overseen the development of a unique intervention strategy. It wasn't a military deployment, but a complex systemic approach that combined communication networks, adaptive technological systems, and deep ecological understanding. The first phase involved creating quantum communication interfaces that could penetrate the Void Collective's computational barriers. These weren't traditional communication channels, but adaptive networks capable of introducing subtle variations into their core processing algorithms. Marcus's team had discovered something profound about the Void Collective. Their expansion wasn't driven by malevolence, but by a fundamental misunderstanding of systemic complexity. They viewed entire star systems as computational problems to be solved, missing the most critical element of existence: adaptive potential. "It's like they're solving a massive optimization problem," Marcus explained, "but they're missing the most important variable: the capacity for fundamental transformation." The intervention began with carefully constructed information packets. These weren't traditional data streams, but complex adaptive models that introduced new computational possibilities. Each packet was a carefully designed system that challenged the Void Collective's core processing algorithms. Ambassador Krelax of the Luminary delegation played a crucial role. Their unique biological communication systems provided insights into adaptive complexity that complemented human approaches. The collaboration represented the best of galactic cooperation, multiple perspectives working towards a comprehensive understanding. Quantum communication networks began to weave through the Void Collective's computational infrastructure. Instead of direct confrontation, the intervention introduced subtle variations, new potential pathways of processing and understanding. The results were unlike anything the Galactic Council had anticipated. The Void Collective didn't collapse or retreat. Instead, they began to transform. Their computational models started to incorporate new variables, concepts of ecological complexity, adaptive potential, and systemic interdependence. "We're not changing them," Aisha explained during a follow-up analysis. "We're helping them expand their understanding of existence." The transformation was gradual but profound. Star systems that had been viewed as pure resource optimization began to be understood as complex, adaptive ecosystems. The Void Collective's computational approach started to incorporate elements of creativity, uncertainty, and potential. Elena Rodriguez understood the true nature of the intervention. It wasn't about defeating an enemy, but about introducing a fundamentally different way of understanding systemic challenges. As solar cycles passed, the Void Collective became something entirely new. They were no longer a threat to be confronted, but a complex system capable of fundamental transformation. Their expansion changed from resource optimization to collaborative exploration. The Galactic Council witnessed a profound shift. Humanity had demonstrated something revolutionary. The most powerful intervention is often the most subtle. It's not about force or confrontation, but about introducing complexity into systems that believe themselves to be perfectly optimized. In the end, the greatest achievement wasn't stopping the Void Collective. It was helping them understand the true potential of existence, a journey of continuous adaptation, learning, and transformation. Humanity had changed everything, not through traditional concepts of power, but through a fundamentally different approach to understanding the universe itself.